Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for coming this evening and spending your Wednesday nights with us as we walk through the Rocky Point Park and Old Orchard Park master plan concepts. Before we get started and before we walk you through the agenda, I'd like to hand it over to Julie from the City of Port Moody to read our land acknowledgement.
Thank you. The City of Port Moody carries out our business on the ancestral and unceded homelands of the Coquitlam, Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, Squamish, Katzie, Kwantlen, Kaikut, and Stolo peoples, and extends appreciation for the opportunity to work on this territory.
Great, thank you, Julie. And just to give you an idea of what we're going to be talking about tonight, or really an overview of the agenda, we'll have about an hour together this evening. The first half will really be walking you through our master planning process to date, what we've heard from past engagement and how that's informed the vision and the guiding principles for the master plan concepts for both Rocky Point Park and Old Orchard Park. We'll talk about the big ideas and the design approaches and really kind of get into the concepts. And then we're hoping to leave a good amount of time at the end for a Q&A period to the team that we have here to answer any questions that you may have or clarifications on the concepts. And I wanted to just flag that everyone should see a Q&A icon in the bottom toolbar of your screen. And so if you click on that, that's where you can go to type out and submit your questions at any point during the session tonight. And if we don't get to your question for whatever reason tonight, please be sure to follow up with the park's email address that I'll put into the chat momentarily. And also please fill out the survey that we will have on the project website as well. And that's a really great way to provide your input at this stage in the process. The final thing that I'll note is that we have an in-person open house that is coming up tomorrow evening from 4:30 to 7 o'clock. This is at the Galleria. So please help us spread the word about this in-person event. And we would love to see many of you there as well. Like I said before, we have the online survey that is live and running on the website, so we really do encourage you to fill that out. You can provide a lot of more feedback in that format. Tonight, this is really about presenting the information to everyone and walking through the different concepts. So maybe with that, I will turn it over to Marta and Sarah.
Thank you, True, for the introduction. We probably will spend a little bit more time than 30 minutes on the presentation. There's a lot of content to flip through, but I just want everybody to be aware that all of this is online, and all the engagement boards that will be presented tomorrow and the same content is presented today. It's also online, so you will have a lot more time to spend with the content. Today is really just an overview and to point you to inform you on what types of things you'll get a chance to respond to. Just to ground everybody to at the start, we are in phase 2 of our project process, and today is our second engagement round where we want to get some feedback on the park designs and design ideas for implementation. And everything you hear today stems out of our previous round of engagement that happened in phase 1, which was on vision, values, and priorities back in July 2022. We've also had other events. We've consulted a number of interested parties and stakeholder groups, as well as youth engagement, and we have reached out through a separate process to local First Nations. And today we'll be adding to those numbers, and we hope to hear from a number of you throughout this process. So everything that we have heard, all the feedback that we've filtered through, and if you're curious, there is an engagement summary report online that you can also look at from that first round of engagement. But what we've done is we've taken the big themes and ideas that have come forward, and we're filtering it through to develop the master plan framework. So the guiding principles and vision for each park have been developed. And out of that has stemmed a series of design ideas that you'll see filtered throughout a number of design concepts. And these are really centered around big moves and also a series of implementable actions that we're starting to present to you and get some of your feedback on which ones are a priority, and if we got them right, is there anything missing, etc. The guiding principles turned out to be the same for both parks. In fact, I mean, they do have the same setting on the waterfront, and the ecological setting is connected and circulation pathway. So it's, it's not a surprise. And I'll just list them here. They are stewarding healthy and resilient ecosystems, enhancing connections with the waterfront, maintaining a quality park experience, contributing to the city's truth and reconciliation work, supporting network connectivity, and ensuring park accessibility and inclusivity. These are really the big overarching themes that then trickle down to the individual vision and big moves and how they are implemented on the plans. It's really important to note as well that there's a series of other studies and policies that that we are leaning on to inform some of the implementation and actions for the plan. So our master plan won't have all the answers, but it will connect in with recommendations. For example, the master transportation plan, that one is underway, and we will be looking to that for the important connection points and how that may influence the park design. Now, the House Post project is underway, the parkland strategy, urban forest management strategy, all of these things are really relevant to our park plan, and we have considered them as important design considerations for the plans. We'll start with Old Orchard Park. The vision that emerged, it focuses on the idea of this park being really family oriented and the local park. It's the quieter park, calm and peaceful. Those were the words that came out of the last engagement. Also, a lot of people mentioned they love watching the sunsets in the evenings and having picnics with family or for birthday parties. And just embracing that close connection with the waterfront. This is Port Moody's only swimming beach, and everyone really loves it. And we recognize that that's something to be treasured and improved upon and enhanced as much as possible. But really that family feel and local park was something that came through as really important. It's not a place that we want to bring a ton of people and new events to. And so that directly trickled down to a series of design actions. This is kind of the diagrammatic format that then led to the design concept. So number one is improving the arrival experience, looking at some of the pedestrian and vehicular conflicts that you might see today, and improving the whole experience going down to the beach, creating an accessible pathway that meanders through the challenging grades that are there. Number three, the playground is nearing the end of its usable life, and there are opportunities to improve it. A number of people noted that. Also, the washrooms that are at Old Orchard Hall, people felt that it would be beneficial to have more of them alongside change rooms and closer to the beachfront and within the park space. Of course, the sandy beach area, if we can improve it, enhance it, enlarge it, whatever is possible. Everybody really loves swimming and enjoying the sandy area. And so that would be something really important. And then number 6 is protecting the beach and park from coastal erosion and sea level rise, as well as enhancing habitat throughout the shore and through shoreline restoration features. And then improving the ecological and habitat value, and that's all connected in with the shoreline as well. And then number 8 is improving the open lawn area, which already exists, but just increasing that opportunity. And then in general, water-related experiences, because that beachfront won't be available all the time. We recognize there are times you can't necessarily swim at it. So shifting to how that translates into an actual concept. You can see that we're proposing here a pathway that meanders through a new and expanded playground space and picnic areas, as well as there's new washroom facilities at number 4. And something to note is that, you know, this is still a master plan, and the specific location of some of these features can move around and will be explored through more detailed design. So whether it's up higher by the path or lower, that's still to be determined. And then just extending that experience when there are times you can't get to the beach, or you know, you can't swim, having lounging decks to enjoy the views, or you know, to enhance the muddy area that's there at the moment. And then looking at habitat islands and other measures to help with erosion, and as we mentioned, the expansion of the picnic areas in the meadow. So the next series of slides I'll just filter through, but these are some of the things you'll get a chance at the public engagement event and in the survey to provide comments on. The playground area, you'll get to look at what are some of the play experiences you'd like and some of the preferred typologies and character. Same with beachfront. How can we improve that beachfront? What would improve your experience when you're there? And ecology, habitat, and environments. There are a number of different measures that we can take, and we will be looking to align with concurrent and related city studies and initiatives, but there is also opportunity to provide some additional thoughts and feedback if you have. There are some questions on the survey around slope character. What typology of picnic setting is your preference? If we look at a shelter, what that might look like, and ways of improving the accessibility and change room and comfort. I will be switching to Rocky Point Park. For this park, we all know that the pressures and you know, the uses and character, there's just so much more going on here. And so the framework for the master plan will be a little bit more extended. So not just actions, but we have set out 5 big moves. And you'll see throughout the concepts when we present them, all of them respond to these 5 big moves in different ways, but they are all included. And then there'll be a series of actions that stem out of those. And then today we'll be presenting 3 design options, not so much for you to choose one over another, but really to look at the different ideas that are presented within them and share your preferences and combination of them. And at the end of the day, we'll have, as part of the master plan, 1 design concept drawing that will respond to the whole framework, all of the vision and principles and big moves that we've set out to date. So the emerging vision for Rocky Point Park is one of a place of destination. It's a waterfront destination. It's a community hub. It's really a place that people can feel welcome, included, and it's very dynamic, lots of energy happening here. It's a gathering place for a variety of events and a variety of recreational activities, both formal and informal. And there's also that balance to be struck with the rich natural and marine environments that are present at the park and that people really like to experience, enjoy, and learn from. And again, this idea of expanding opportunities for learning through the landscapes and the diverse ecosystems and cultural uses. Flipping through the 5 big moves. The first one is to improve access to and throughout the park. So this constitutes ideas of around the arrival sequence, just making sure people feel like they're really entering a special place, looking at how the gateways are treated, the quality of that arrival sequence and experience. It also looks at the quality of pathways. We know that a number of them are quite narrow and run down, and that's something that's really important to improve on. And just to look at some of the conflict areas for bikes and pedestrians, vehicles, etc. So trying to improve that whole network across the park. And of course, redirecting parking pressures and just looking at undertaking a whole parking management study. So all of these big moves will be presented on the boards tomorrow and in the survey. And what we are asking everyone is to identify the top priorities for each of them, because it's too hard for us to accomplish everything in 10 years. It's pretty much impossible, but we do want to get started, and understanding what those priorities are is really important for us, so that we can filter through them first, and then the next ones can come after. So second big move is re-envisioning and enhancing the kids and youth zone. We heard from a lot of people that the playground is well loved, it's busy, and it could really use an expansion and more play opportunities. Also thinking about accessibility in different age groups. And it's also nearing, I think it's nearing at the end of its life as well, or some component of it. So there's that. There might be new water play experiences. And then looking at the youth zone, which, you know, right now is just beaming with sunshine, whether we need to provide shade in some fashion through tree canopy or covered spaces, enhancing the skate park that's there now, but also looking at providing new youth amenities to increase the diversity of options. Opening up and improving the central lawn, finding ways to frame it, and looking at its relationship with some of the neighboring commercial uses, dining, and other experiences. We were exploring the location of the stage, and if maybe there's an opportunity or a benefit in moving it to create a different configuration and larger space, also just easier access from an operational standpoint. And just enhancing the appearance and functionality of that central green. We know that there's times when it's quite muddy and not necessarily usable. So those are some of the things to look out for. Number 4 is reimagining the waterfront. And that extends, you know, all across. It might be a combination of hardscape, softscape, you know, looking at erosion control, but also improving water access, storage. We heard a lot from people, one of their favorite things at the park is the pier. And it's something that's been there for a long time. People have a lot of memories associated with that. And so is there an opportunity to enhance the experience by the pier? And thinking about that waterfront plaza as opposed to just a bit of lawn that tends to be quite muddy these days. So those are some of the things to think through: enlivening the area, improving views to the water. We heard a lot from people that they wanted more ornamental gardens and really enjoy the ones that are there already. And there might be an opportunity to introduce water play right near the waterfront. Number 5 is creating a resilient park environment. in a changing climate. And this captures a whole series of ideas, responding to climate change, coming up with adaptation measures against coastal flooding, erosion. Looking at extreme heat events, more and more we need to think about how we can provide that heat reprieve in the park for the public, especially with so much new development happening and people being limited in the green space that they have in their own condo units or apartments. Also creating an environment that supports biodiversity and user comfort and experience. So, increasing tree canopy, improving interpretive signage, rainwater capture is another important theme. How can we provide shade? Some other relief measures, whether it's a misting station or water fountain, etc. So concept plans, as mentioned, we do have 3 concept plans, but they all respond to the 5 big moves, just in slightly different ways. Looking at the character of place, you'll notice that in the first option, the lookout, there's a focus on directing views and pathways out to the waterfront. And then also the waterfront plaza area is more garden-like in character and really nestled in between the trees. And then the second option, the central green focuses all its energy into the center, and then the experience at the beachfront is more open, and it's more of a hardscaped waterfront plaza experience with a perched beach. And then the third option is it offers a series of experiences that are more parallel to the water, and the open lawn space is divided into three different areas. And then also at the waterfront, you have kind of a softer boardwalk waterfront experience. And then they also differ a little bit in their experience at the front entry of the park. So the way that we offer a dining grove and commercial experience at the front, and then some of them have larger dining areas and waterfront plazas, whereas one of them maintains, not so much maintains the pool, but actually provides a new enhanced larger one. So there's a number of different trade-offs in each option, and it's something you'll need to spend a bit of time with each of these concepts to really think about what those trade-offs are and what some of the priorities would be, the benefits versus the pros and cons, I mean. So just diving into concept 1, which we call the lookout. And as mentioned already, there's this focus on linear connections out to the water. You'll get these viewpoints that really bring you out over the water, and you can feel more immersed and hovering over that water. So the view is different experience. The waterfront has that garden-esque feel with an interesting water play experience. And this one actually keeps the stage in its current location, and it maintains that pathway down to the stage. There's also a big, large linear boardwalk that gives a new experience at the front of the park, and it's connected with a number of consolidated commercial uses. So the ice cream remains in its place, but Paggio's shifts over to here. And there might be an opportunity for more food and beverage at the front. Should really be calling it food and beverage, not so much commercial. And that's associated with a big dining area, a tree grove, and whether it's just a picnic or a gathering social event, or you are grabbing your fish and chips and heading over there with your family. And I won't dive into so much of the play space or youth extension picnic area zones, because they just differ a little bit in their preferences, but in general they're in the same location, and the idea is that's being presented is similar. The other thing to note is there are picnic shelter opportunities that are provided in slightly different locations in each of the plans. So this one considers it where the current Pajo's space is. And then also the west side of the park, outside of the boathouse, that end of the park really focuses on enhancing the connection for kayaks to get down to the water, and to extension of a circulation path for just general public. And there is an additional kayak storage proposed around this number 18 here. And one other thing to note, each of the concepts starts to consider how we might accommodate food trucks during events or just every day, and they're generally located in the parking lot area. So you would just close that component of the parking on a temporary basis. But also some of these paths that go through the park are offered as, are designed as much wider, and do accommodate that that use as well. So these are just some precedent images. You'll have more chance to spend with these with the boards. The round has a really nicely framed big round open or oval open space that has a very integrated feel with the plaza space at the front of the park. The water play element is integrated along the edge of that. So you can really imagine people shifting from, you know, kids running across from having their lunch to playing in the water park to shifting to the lawn. It's just really, all these spaces and gardens are quite integrated along with the patios and extended food and beverage building at the front. And there are larger picnic shelters proposed here at number 17, again in place of the current Pajo's building. The waterfront here has this nice perched beach feature, because accessing the waterfront or the water itself is something that's quite discouraged. We know that there is mud flats, and the risks of getting stuck in the mud flats are quite high. So that's something that we need to remember at this park, and being able to have opportunities for a sandy beach experience or water play at a higher elevation and within the park is something we're trying to accommodate within each of these designs. The experience along the water here is one where you get to walk through boardwalks and wetland much closer and out on the water. So this is something that's a bit different here. The other thing that this concept presents is the move, an opportunity to shift the stage with a backdrop of the water and the Burrard Inlet. And it gives a different relationship with where the audience can sit and experience the event that's happening at the waterfront. So if you're, you know, having your dinner in the evening and looking out over the water play and the whole lawn, you can actually see the concert that might be happening up at the front. Shifting to option 3, which we call the walk. So the waterfront experience is quite unique in this one, where we have one large boardwalk. So it's more of a linear boardwalk feel versus, you know, more formalized plaza. And this one shifts the dining experience to the waterfront. And that's that's in response to there being a new pool facility in place of the one that's existing at the moment. And an extended kind of community facility space and change rooms, washrooms, all connected in one new facility. So that also pushes the lawn into a different configuration, more of a linear one rather than a larger open space. So that's the trade-off there. And then looking at picnic shelters that extend out over to the east, but also maintaining the existing picnic shelter on the west side of the park. And then this one keeps Pajo's in its current location, so you can see that experience. And then there's the connecting paths are quite linear all the way across, and that's what helps frame the big open spaces. So again, all of these, you can mix and match the ideas within them, and they're all something for you to consider. And what will come out will be a hybrid option. So it's not necessarily, one versus another. I'm realizing we're running up against the clock quite a bit. There's a series of slides that just show you, again, what the preferences are that we'll be looking for your feedback on. So the waterfront gathering area, we see that there's different experiences there. The dining arrangement, whether it's at the waterfront or at the front of the park, that's something for you to give us some feedback on. Also, that experience that you might get on the water. How close to the water can we get, and the configuration and character. The water play experience is a little bit different in each. And, we ask about whether you'd like an upgraded splash pad or some sort of wading cove opportunity, or something completely different, whether it's an interactive water pump play feature, or some sort of water installation, an artistic one. Then in general, we ask about what types of experience, what types of play you like, what opportunities you'd like for a youth zone, whether it's basketball, beach volleyball, parkour, all sorts of ideas. So we're trying to gather those thoughts, and picnic locations and typologies as well. And then we have different open space configurations, event opportunities. We've got the kayak storage that's being presented. Some of these ideas, again, they are actually filtering through each of the concepts. So there isn't so much questions around these, but if there are some extended ideas that you have around these three, then you are welcome to provide some comments just on sticky notes or in general comments. And we look at what are the opportunities for comfort, safety, and extreme weather. So we provide some ideas for you to choose from, and you're welcome to add additional ones. And the same for ecology, habitat, and environment. We do need to align with some of the recommendations that come out of other policies, but we're always looking for new and more specific ideas at this current location. So please share anything that you have. I think that sums up the presentation component, and I'll let True continue with the next part. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Marta. So just as a reminder for folks, if you have any questions, please use the icon at the bottom of your toolbar. It's the Q&A icon, and you can submit questions that way. We're looking for any kind of clarifying questions or anything that we can expand on about the concepts or the future master plans, and we'll direct them to the panelists now. I see a couple questions already in the chat. I'm wondering, we have a question here. Would you be able to expand on what habitat islands are? Marta, maybe that's one for you and Sarah.
Julie's also unmuted.
Yeah.
You guys go ahead, Sarah or Julie.
I mean, it's a very notional idea right now, but because we're in master planning and not getting into like technical studies yet, but we have we have some engineers and biologists on our team to help us kind of understand what the opportunities are. And we have talked about the idea of like marsh restoration in the mudflats that might help with like wave damage from coastal sea level rise, and also have habitat value. So it's a very notional idea right now, but that's kind of where that came from. I don't know if you want to add anything, Julie.
I could just add a few things that as we were going through the site visits, that the existing beach right now at Old Orchard is actually topped up seasonally with sand to maintain the beach, because in the winter months some of they tend to have larger waves that do result in a zigzag motion of the sediment on the sand on the beach and actually move it to the east, and so that it needs to be replenished. And in order to help maintain the beach, some of the idea was to use the concept of the habitat islands to break up some of the wave action, and to also provide additional habitat. And this would, of course, need review and approvals, permits, that type of thing, but it is a technique used to protect beaches from erosion.
Great. There's another question here related to Old Orchard Park about the meadow. So can we clarify where the meadow is located, and where a picnic area would be? And maybe that's another one for Martin, Sarah.
I think there is like an area of Old Orchard that is always called the meadow. Is that right? And then there's us suggesting that we'd like to add some meadow. So maybe that's where it's a bit confusing. I don't know if it would be helpful to bring up the plan or.
Yeah, I can share the screen again 1 second.
I can provide a few more things as you're pulling up the screen. So this is the area that's currently, we call it the meadow. I don't know if it's full on meadow. It used to be a blackberry bush area more recently, and was cleared away maybe I'm trying to think what years it would have been around. There was some clearing work done to open it up for use. It's right there where number 8 is. And that area is also got a historic orchard area with trees, old apple trees, and it has been used for weddings, using the Old Orchard Hall, and then they've gone down there and done ceremonies and small events, so it has been booked that way. And I believe that's the area that you're looking at in the concepts of enhancing and formalizing it a little bit more in terms of it has nothing there right now. It's just a grass area. I think there's a bench on one side of it, and that's it.
Yeah, and we're just sort of suggesting that it get little terrace, like flattened out a little bit so that it could be more usable, but essentially have the same character that it has now.
Yeah, there's a lot of invasive species that are encroaching on that space. So there's actually an opportunity to enlarge that usable space. And maybe the confusion's around the word meadow as well. You know, we call it a meadow, but it's more of an open lawn with maybe slightly higher perennial edges to make it feel more like a meadow, and also flatter terraced spaces, because we've heard quite a bit from people that they love the area, but it's a bit sloped, and it makes it really hard to sit down and have a picnic with their family. So the idea would be to actually flatten it a little bit so that it is more usable and there's more area in general.
Great.
And maybe add picnic tables as well.
I see a question here. noting that one of the biggest differences between the options for Rocky Point Park is either the renovation or the elimination of the existing pool, and wondering if we could speak a little bit more to how that decision around the pool will be made in the future. Maybe that could be for the city, if Julie Chatterding have an
Yeah.
answer to that.
Yeah. The decision to renovate or eliminate the pool complex will partly be informed by the feedback we get through this process, because we're really looking at different concepts, but it's been raised through the community engagement input to date. It's been suggested by people, and the questions were asked of, is there anything there that could be relocated out of the park as they're looking to fit things in? That came up, and it's also recognized that the pool at Rocky Point Park is at the end of its service for serviceable life. So some decision will be made on that pool, whether it be to replace or relocate, and that could take some time. So it would have to have an alternate location identified to address the need for the pool. Obviously, the pool is well used by the community, and we would be looking for alternate locations if we were relocating it. So that would be a part of that decision, but there's no current council direction to remove the pool. Council will review the engagement results from this phase of the project as they look at the draft master plan. So part of the questions at this phase is really to gauge public preference on different concept options, including the balancing of, say, spray parks or water play features, or a pool. So I think we've got the pool in there in one of the concepts as a specific question for feedback.
Yes, that's a good plug to fill out the survey that's
Yeah,
on the
so-
project website.
But the decision will be made by council, and there's no current council direction to remove the pool. So right now we're just exploring concept ideas and looking to see what is the right balance of features within the park.
Great. We have a question here, noticing a decline in the purple martin populations close to the pier. Is there discussion, or could there be discussion about the possibility of locating the boxes further away from the pier? Maybe that is also a question for the city, if Julie Chatterding.
Yeah, I think that's an existing project in terms of the nesting boxes. And for those that aren't familiar with the background on this, it's actually been a very important sort of species recovery for the purple martins, which were not present in this area. And there was a very focused effort by stewardship groups to bring back purple martins to the area. So the population is monitored for trends. There's actually 2 sites locally. There's this one as well as one in North Vancouver, and that one could be explored, but I don't think that necessarily has to be linked to the project. It's a really specific item. So I think if there was a population decline on the purple martins, I wouldn't necessarily tie it into a longer term phased park plan. I would deal with it as its own project. I think we would look at it with the stakeholders.
Great. And correct me if I'm wrong, but there is no plans in any of the concepts to change the existing pier as it is now, right? Martha's nodding yet.
That's correct. That's
Great.
correct.
Wonderful. So just another kind of encouragement for folks that have questions to use that Q&A function to type in any questions that are coming up for folks. I mean, I just have a question. Maybe I'll kind of prompt this around the overall timeline that we're looking at for these master plans to be complete, and then also along those lines, how long they'll each take to implement. So maybe that's a question for city staff as well.
I can
Go
start,
for it.
and Julie, please jump in. I think looking at both of these master plans, the Old Orchard Park might be a slightly shorter process, and then we're really hoping to get it to its finishing line maybe in Q1 2021. So that's for the master plan. The Rocky Point Master Plan, as we all know, is a more complex process. And so today really wanted to hear your feedback, and then tomorrow through the open house and then the survey as well. I think we would need to spend some time to review all of the feedback from the public, and then to see how we could really take in the feedback, and then try to, I guess, summarize the feedback, and then go from what we are seeing today, the 3 concept plans, to a draft final concept plan. So once we get to that point, I think that'll give us a better idea of when the completion of the master plan will be. So we'll know better about the timeline of the master plan in the next few months. And then as we know better, we'll make sure to update the project timeline on Engage Port Moody, so that everybody, the public, will know as well. As for the implementation process for both parks, it'll be a phased process. Again, for Old Orchard Park, it might be shorter, but then for Rocky, we're looking at the next 10 years. And a summary of the implementation phasing will be part of the park master plans. So again, will be shared with the public.
Thank you, Ding. The only thing I could add to that would be that all of it, and it kind of depends on the feedback we get, the direction that goes into the final concept plan, the costs associated with it, and then of course has a formal approval process through council, and then the funding itself. Also, the city has its own financial planning process where we look at funding for all the different projects in the city. This is parks are one of the areas, but there's other ones, roads and engineering and other projects, but it would go through the city's financial planning process based on council direction.
Great. Thank you both. There's a question here about recreational activities and looking at the different options and the activities adjacent to the ocean and waterfront. What areas are suitable for recreational purposes and what areas are not? Was there a determination of suitable areas? So kind of assuming here that the questions around, how did we consider what areas might need to be protected versus areas that could be for active or recreational use? Maybe that could start with Marta.
Yeah, so our starting point was certainly looking at what's there now. I mean, we've got a bit more of a hard edge closer to the pier, and whether that hard edge remains or is improved upon, that's a place where at the top you could have more recreation and a hardscaped edge. But really the rest of the shoreline edge is quite sensitive ecologically. It's also subject to erosion and flood action. And so we want to focus on a green shores approach. And there's no specific, we haven't done a study as to where to draw that line of where we need, where we might end the hard edge or start a hard edge. I think that's all part of more detailed design, but overall, we know that there is a combination of the two, and that we need to align ourselves with some of the policy and studies that are being done at the same time. And then we'd also be leaning on our experts, environmental and coastal engineers. Anyone want to add to that? That answers the question.
Wonderful. Yeah, I'm seeing here Green Shores approach would be a good addition, maybe for further studies and for those considerations. Another question here on the pool, someone is saying that they kind of filled out the survey and thought about the pool specifically as if Rocky Point Park was the only suitable place for a pool in Port Moody, and wondering, is there opportunity or the possibility of a, further engagement process specifically on maybe, pool services across the city, if not in Rocky Point, but in other areas. And maybe that's also a question for the city. Julie.
Thanks. I could just add to that. Yeah, that the pool would need its own process, obviously, for the decision on it. It's part of facilities infrastructure, and they are doing a review of different facility needs within the city, as well as the city grows, and as the official community plan is implemented. The pool discussion would have, I would imagine, its own process as well. The park question really was, as the pool reaches the end of its serviceable life, does it make sense to have it here, or should we be opening that to discussions of, could that be located somewhere else? And I think that's how it was discussed when it was done with the phase 1 public engagement. But definitely something that there's a lot of community interest in the pool. It's obviously a well-used facility, but it also has a seasonal aspect to it. And so the question is that the best spot for it, from people trying to get to lessons and stuff as well. I think that was some of the feedback that was received that brought this up as a question. So, but yes, to answer the question, it would need its own process. I'm sure there would be a lot of interest in that discussion.
Wonderful. Another thing, aside from the pool that came up, I think, in the last round of engagement, was the possibility of kind of crowdedness at Rocky Point Park especially. There's a lot of activity in that area, and a lot of people are already coming and using the park. And so how are these concepts kind of considering ways to mitigate potential crowdedness, especially as it relates to parking capacity around Rocky Point Park? Wonder if anyone wants to answer that question.
Yeah, I could
Yeah, Marta.
stab here. So yeah, I mean, that is one of the biggest challenges that we've been dealing with when thinking of the concept. And that's why, again, that engagement round that we had 2 summers ago was so important for us to understand what some of the priorities are. I think in responding, some aspects of the concept are, there's a lot of spaces that are designed to be flexible and multifunctional. And that always helps with accommodating a diversity of activities. Another is expanding on the spaces that are already well loved and well used, but maybe just improving them, and just really asking the community about what the priorities are. That there's also a few spaces that aren't being used well because they need some renovation or a bit of tender love and care. And so even if we could do that to start, it's going to help create more usable space in general. And just being smarter in the idea of consolidating food and beverage as one option, or where we provide plaza zones, etc. So that's part of it. The other thing to consider is, we don't need to pack a ton more. It's really just complementing what's there already. We recognize that there's a number of developments that are happening across the street and next to the site in the future, and that might influence and incorporate or expand opportunities for a different typology of spaces. So we don't have to provide everything. We can't provide everything, but we know that these other opportunities will be there and will be, of course, this is all in conversations that we'll have in the future. Every time that there's developments that are coming up, and the city will have continued conversation as well. So it's a longer process, and it's a process. Julie, you probably want to expand on that a little bit.
The one thing I was going to say is that this does tie in, you referenced earlier about other plans that are going on that complement this, and there's 2 of them that I that come to mind when you're discussing that. And one was the Port Moody sort of master transportation plan, which is really meant to support alternate transportation modes to get to the park, which we're currently seeing, like since the park was redeveloped, as you see it right now, there at that time there wasn't that paved multi-use path along Murray Street that allows for easy cyclist access to the park. So there have been improvements made since the park was renovated as it is now, and trying to strengthen those connections for cycling, pedestrian pathways, as well as the SkyTrain actually wasn't there when that park was updated. So you've got different ways of getting to the park, and and I think that's what you're trying to do in the design, is to include those and enhance them and make sure that they're supported, and it makes it possible for people to have different choices for how to get to the park. So that comes to mind, as well as the trail network plan is also underway. We just finished our phase 1 engagement, and also looking at the trail connectivity improvements to that. And for those that have patiently borne out the project work, there was the southern end of the Shoreland Trail that was improved to a wider newer paved multi-use path. And then we're currently through transportation coordination as well, we're working on the improvement all the way through to Old Orchard. So when that part is finished, we will have an upgraded path from Old Orchard to Rocky Point. So looking to tie into those improved trail connections as well, which has come out really strong, I believe, in the phase 1 public engagement of people wanting those trail entrances for both parks, and how people can move through the city, cycling, walking, and also a focus on accessibility as well. So with the trail network plan and other initiatives in the city, we're also looking at improving accessibility. So tying those together is an important way of addressing how to get to the park in terms of crowding.
Great. Yeah. So this is just kind of one piece of a much larger initiative from the city. Wonderful. Well, folks, we're up at 7 o'clock. And so I just want to be mindful of everyone's evenings here. And thank you so much again for coming to spend an hour with us as we walk you through the master plan concepts. I wanted to make one final plug for our in-person open house that's at the Galleria tomorrow at 4:30. We'll have boards available, and the project team will be there to answer any questions, and it'll be an opportunity for you to sit with the material, to speak with everyone, and we'll also really encourage you to share any feedback that you have on the survey that is live from the project website. And I'll just put that link in the chat again, so everyone has access to that. Thank you again. And again, if there are any questions that you think of later on, please feel free to email this the email address here, parks@portmoody.ca, and we will answer your questions in that format. Maybe I'll hand it over to Julie or Chad or Ding to close, and thank you again.
No, I don't have anything else to add. I just encourage everybody, if you can make it tomorrow night, love to meet you in person. This is sort of a hybrid approach to support people that can make it tomorrow, and people that prefer to do things remotely. As well, the project web page is maintained obviously by the project managers, and that will have information. And if you're joining us and you weren't part of the phase 1, we've endeavored to keep the timeline and the materials available to everybody to be able to follow through the process, so you can join in at any time. So I just want to thank everybody, encourage you to visit the Engage Port Moody website if you want to know a little bit more about the project background or to continue to follow it. And we welcome your input at these different stages. And I think of it as a bit of a funnel, where we start out with a lot of ideas and feedback on what people think works, doesn't work, challenges at the parks. And we kind of come down to a certain point now where we're trying to show them in some concepts of what that might look like from a landscape architect design perspective, sort of what it looks like on the ground, because we had people suggesting ideas, and then now we carry on, we get more feedback, and then we head towards our goal of a final report with recommendations on what would make sense for this park, for this community. So just appreciate all your help, and thank you for participating.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thanks, everyone.